Grandparents Raising Grandchildren is a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission is to get the word out to people that we are here and we help grandparents raising grandchildren or any caregiver raising children not their own. There's a lot of services that are out there that people may not know about that we really think they should know about. We have a hotline which you can call 24/7 in case somebody gets into help and needs trouble, has trouble with children, or maybe if they have children dropped off to them and they need supplies, they can give us a call. We offer emergency assistance to our support groups. We have support groups statewide. We offer support for that. We have a annual dance, a grandparents dance. It's called Grandparents Night Out once a year. Everything is free. We have a DJ, John Hill, and dancing, and we have a catered dinner. We do things for Christmas for our support group families, and we come together and offer resources and try to find resources for anybody in the state that needs help, whether it be anything, food stamps or kinship care, or really just anything in particular, any way that they need help, we try to find it.
Dr. Dana Hunter began her professional career in child welfare as a specialist in 2005. For 7 years, she was serving vulnerable children and families. She was boots on the ground for child welfare with the Department of Children and Family Services. Then she sought more expertise. She enrolled in a PhD program at LSU, and in 2013, she graduated with her doctorate of philosophy and social work from LSU. Now, she was so good at it that post-graduation, LSU hired her to work, I'm putting it my way, right? Hired her to work in the Senior Research Associate of the Office of Social Service Research and Development. So she was helping them get smart with her research. And then, in November of 2015, Dr. Hunter was selected by the Board of Directors as the Executive Director of the Louisiana Children's Trust Fund, where she can take all this boots-on-the-ground knowledge up to the PhD and put it to work for our kids and our grandparents taking care of their grandchildren. Here she is, Dr. Dana Hunter.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you all so much for having me this morning. I'm very grateful just to be here to pass through to just share a very quick message of hope and encouragement to you all. Truly, as Reverend Ash stated, we're blessed just to wake up this morning. Yes. We're very blessed, just the fact that our eyes popped open. And sometimes it's good just to meditate on that fact alone. Because when we go through trials and hardships and circumstances and life throws us a curveball, sometimes our minds just waver and waver and waver, and we feel down in the dumps. We feel hopeless. And sometimes we have to remember the fact that, Lord, you have kept me here another day. Let me just thank you. Sometimes we just have to just take a step back and just say, God, let me just thank you. Yes. Because truly somebody did not wake up this morning. If we just turn on the news, we all go through a lot. But when we just turn on the news and we see the car crashes and we see, that's somebody whose wife did not return home, or somebody's husband did not return home, somebody's teenage child who did not return home, or when we think about somebody in the hospital who's just praying over their child who just got diagnosed with lupus or cancer or leukemia, it's like, Lord, let me just count my blessings. Because life is not promised to any of us. But I just want to speak just for a moment on this extraordinary concept, this extraordinary person, many that's among us now, and that is the person of a grandparent. Not just a grandparent, but a grandparent who raises their grandchildren. That's an extraordinary person. And I want to just speak to you and tell you why that person is extraordinary. The U.S. Census Bureau, as Ms. Michelle just referenced, the U.S. Census Bureau reports that there are in the United States today 4.9 million children being raised solely by their grandparents. Solely by their grandparents. 4.9 million across the country. Of these 4.9 million grandparents that have taken on this extraordinary role, 60% of these grandparents are in the workforce, working to try and take care of their own needs, their own responsibilities, and now the added responsibility of their grandchildren. That in itself speaks volumes. Because it's easy just to quote a statistic, but I want to just help you, because you already know, many of you are already in the situation, but just to put context to what this really means. This means that a grandparent who has really lived most of their lives raising their children, looking for the day when those kids will graduate from high school, move on, where they could just have freedom in their house. You know what? I don't have to cook anymore. I don't have to, I can go where I want to go, all of those things. They get a knock at their door, or they get a phone call from a child, their daughter or their son or a relative who says, your daughter can no longer provide for their kids. And the grandparent, I'm sure, is like, okay, I'll help. You keep them and I'll help. Most grandparents try to start right there. Like, let's not move them in right quick. No, let's just not jump to moving them in. You don't have to move them in right now, do you? Like, I'll just send you $100. How about that? For my wonderful grandchild. Or I'll just come pick them up on weekends. Let's start right there, right? I'm sure many of you have sought all kind of options because you're thinking, I know. Ain't nothing about to bring these children, my beautiful children, to live with me. And so we seek out all kind of options, but then those options don't work because the children remain in harm's way. And the heart, even though the grandparent has sought to help, even though the grandparent has sought other options, maybe I'll pick them up from school and bring them back and stay in your house and feed them, make sure they eat, then I'll come back home. Even though all of those options have been sought out, none of those things work and the kids are still in harm's way. So the only other alternative then is that despite my dreams of relaxing, despite my plans of just me and husband now, I can get in the tub and get out and maybe, just relax in my house. Now I have to bring my babies in here to live with me. No other options, no other alternatives, because foster care is not an option. Going to stay with the aunt is not an option. The grandparent has to do it. And what a sacrifice. And many of you in here have chosen to put your plans to the side. To put your extra savings to the side. Because whereas you could have put $200 and $300 extra in your savings account, now it's going to these grandchildren who need clothes and shoes and the grocery bill. Woo. The light bill, the water bill, because why you got to fill a tub all the way up here? Why you got to run water? Why you got to take a bath in that much water? I tell my son that, good Lord, you going swimming or what? But those grandchildren, and then you know what I thought about? I said, you know what? Grandparents who raise their grandchildren, sometimes it's not just one. You know what? I'm sure many of you would be saying to yourself, you know, this wouldn't be so bad if it was just one. But when that knock comes, hey, grandmama, hey, grandma, hey, grandmama, you look like, 3 of y'all, Jesus. I know. Girl, if you looking at your daughter, sound like, if you don't get it together, I know these 8 children not coming over here. And all the extra expenses that come. And so 60% of grandparents have no choice but to remain in the workforce. Whereas they could have retired and, gone on vacations and relaxed and took some part-time. Part-time is now no longer an option. Because grandparents are trying to bring in as much financial resources because of now the extra burden and the extra responsibility. Extraordinary. If you're a grandparent raising your grandchildren right now, stand to your feet. Let's all just give them a hand right now. Because you are extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Yay!
So there's another fact. 21% of grandparents who raise grandchildren are below the poverty level. Now that just blew my mind. 21% of these extraordinary grandparents are below the poverty line. Now, if I can just put that in layman's terms, just please allow me to put this in layman's terms. 21% of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren struggle, have a hard time. See, below the poverty line, that sounds real educated, right? That sounds real, as they say, edumacated. But if we can put this in layman's terms, have a hard time making ends meet. That's what below the poverty line. Sometimes live from paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes don't even make it to the next paycheck. In the interim, you wondering, Lord, where is our next meal gonna come from? 21%. Many grandparents who raise their grandchildren reach out looking for help, looking for more assistance, only to hear you don't qualify. You don't qualify. Not eligible. Don't qualify. And the grandparents looking like, Lord, what do we do? And the grandparents who raise their grandchildren who struggle to make ends meet often say, God, how is this fair? How is this fair that I have to do this? You've called me to do this. I'm the only one who can do this, and I have no help. The policies are not set up to help me. The system is not set up to help me. I can't turn these kids away. I can't send them back into harm's way. I can't allow them to go into foster care. But I don't have money. I don't have the resources. If we could do an assessment, if we can go into some of the homes of the grandparents who are struggling but who have chosen to do this, we would see repairs needing to be done. I mean, just keeping it real. We would see things that need to be changed out, but that can't be changed out because there's no money to do it. We would see them doing the very best they can with what little they have. But yet, they choose to continue. Yet they choose and they say, well, Lord, if I could just give them all the love I can give them. Yet they choose to say, well, Lord, I might not be able to give them a house on the hill, but if I can just keep on and you look around and they've turned 18. And you look around and they've grown up and they've graduated from high school, which if you had not stepped in, we would have read about them in the newspaper. If you had not stepped in, we probably would have seen them on the news. But because of your sacrifice, but because of your continued commitment, despite the rejection, despite the letter that says you don't qualify, despite you going down back and applying over and over again, and you saying, God, I can't even get $100 in food stamps. And you've continued. And I just want to say, as I was quiet and meditating on this, I just want to say from the words and from the mouth of the Father that the Lord appreciates you. Because sometimes we look for the thanks to come from the parent and we don't get it. Sometimes we look for the thanks to come from the grandchild and we don't get it. But the Lord say, I want you to know that I appreciate you. And the Lord says, if there is a reward waiting for you, if you never get a thanks on this side, the Lord says, you're doing it for me. You're doing it for me. I'm storing up treasures for you in heaven. Every meal that you've cooked, every trip that you've taken, every time you went and picked those children up, every time you took them shopping with what little you had, the Lord say, I'm taking note of it. And I tell you again, before I go to my seat, the Lord is well pleased with you. Give yourselves a hand. God bless you.
You know, it's bittersweet when you're raising your grandchildren. Of course, you love them to death. But if we could just let people know that there's a lot of people out there in your shoes. It gets very difficult, but it's so rewarding to have the children. When the children are with the grandparents, they're not in foster care, and that's important to us as grandparents. A lot of times we sacrifice a lot just so that we can give the children what they truly deserve and step up to the plate. So we just want people to know we are out there. If you do need help, please call us. Let us know how we can help you. If we just help one family and one child, that's what we're doing. We have a legal workshop, and Todd Godin is the attorney that handles it. He's the moderator, and what we do is every quarter we have a legal workshop at the Goodwood Library. It's usually on a Friday morning at 10 o'clock, and we have free legal services, and people can come in and ask questions. It can be anonymous, you don't have to say anything, but afterwards you have opportunities to get with the lawyer one-on-one that they can kind of guide you and tell you what needs to be done, and more importantly, where you can go for legal services that maybe some people can't afford to pay. Anybody can be helped. If you're raising your grandchild or any child that's not your own, you could be an aunt raising nieces and nephews. What it is just anybody raising someone else's children. If your heart's into it and you're trying to take care of the children, then we owe it to you to step up and to help you. We're very proud to say we have the support of Mayor Broome, Senator Barrow. We've got a lot of people that work closely with us. Marquita Walters from the from the Department of Family Services. We have Michelle Rabelais from Children's Trust Fund. We have the Huey and Angelina Wilson Foundation that does our legal grants. And we just try to get together to do different events for all the people, whether it be legal, whether it be a conference like this, where we have over 40 exhibitors that come and bring resources and information, the grandparents dance, or just simply a summer picnic for the children that we give in the summer.
Where can people find more information, and what is that 24-hour hotline?
Okay, the 24-hour hotline is the same as our office number, 225-810-3555. We're on Facebook. On Facebook, there's 100 grandparents groups. We are Grandparents Raising Grandchildren Information Center of Louisiana. And we also have a website, lagrg.org.